I think we're live now. Okay, cool. I'm assuming we're live. I think we can probably get started. I think there's a few people that is attending. Yeah, thank you so much everyone for being here tonight, joining 7 p.m. wherever you're joining from. I think it's always interesting to try and educate yourself, and yeah, hopefully this session tonight can be beneficial. Um, we're gonna kind of jump straight into it. Obviously, you know by now the topic is going to be about margin trading and how we can actually trade safely and responsibly with leverage. And so tonight I'm here with Maboko, a analyst from BROKSTOCK. He's a pro. He's going to help us, educate us, and help us to kind of master margin trading at the end of the day. Yeah. So there's a few things we'll be covering. Maboko, thank you so much. We're looking forward to it.
Louis, thank you for actually having us, and I'm looking forward to the webinar.
Yeah, I think master or margin trading is an interesting topic. We always see these videos online, people trading at extremely high leverage ratios and people making massive amount of monies and money. And tonight we actually just want to talk about it and clarify a few points and talk about some of the risks involved and obviously some of the advantages as well. So, there's a few things we'll be covering tonight. Um, some of them is what is margin trading and how leverage can actually amplify your buying power. I'm not sure if we can move on to that next slide. Getting a definition of what margin trading is and to start with the basics. We'll also obviously talk about how to manage risk effectively, using proven strategies to protect your downside. I think that's a very important part when it comes to trading, to protect your finances at the end of the day. I think
Mhm.
common mistakes beginners make and how to avoid them, mistakes that I've made and Maboko probably as well. We're here to share these things so that we can avoid making those mistakes and ultimately make more money at the end of the day. And of course, actionable steps to margin trading on BROKSTOCK. I prefer the app. I use it daily. It's something that I enjoy quite a bit. And then, of course, why trading on a regulated platform is very important. So these are some of the topics that we'll be talking about tonight. Before we jump into it, I think there's something interesting or exciting that BROKSTOCK has to offer tonight. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if we can show the QR code, but you can actually get a bonus share if you sign up and deposit a certain amount tonight. So there's a few specific things that we need to just focus on quickly, but you can effectively get a free JSE share if you deposit up to 1,000 Rand and open a leverage position of around 500 Rand or more. There's one important part, and it is to use and to paste your app ID in this part of the webinar so that BROKSTOCK can actually track who entered the giveaway. So this you'll probably see a screen that pops up now. You'll enter your app ID, your BROKSTOCK app ID on here. Or you can just scan the code if you want to sign up. But this is going to be a very important part so that they can see who actually signed up. And you can get a free JSE share worth 200 Rand. I think that's a pretty good deal. Of course, there's terms and conditions. It's always just a good idea to read the full terms. We're not going to work through that now, but there is a place where you can see the full terms. So yeah, I'm not sure if you wanted to add something on that, Maboko.
Yeah, so clients can also, if they miss the full terms and conditions, they can always go into our website under legal documents. They'll find them there. And as well, like you said, we want to just cover like the basics of leverage to just demystify it for most people because I think it's been misunderstood for quite some time now.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's people would automatically think margin is risk, and obviously it is. There is risk involved, but anything worth investing in has risk. It's just about mitigating that risk, and that's hopefully what we'll talk about tonight as well. I'm not sure if we should keep the screen open for a bit more. Can we move on to the slides, or I'm not sure if people
Yeah.
were able to enter their IDs that quickly, but yeah, we can obviously.
Yeah. And just to add on it that, they could leave, their questions and answers in the thingy, the question section tab. And then also, they are freely to chat, it would be nice to
Yeah.
get people's response there, guys, so that we can see that
Yeah.
everyone is live and attentive, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely.
All right. Then we move.
Yeah, so like we mentioned, obviously the first thing is defining margin. You know, what is margin trading at the end of the day? Obviously we know that there's leverage involved, and let's call it debt almost. So I'm not sure if you can start with that, Maboko. What is margin trading?
All right. So margin trading basically is borrowing some funds from your broker, right? And these funds are to generally help you then to make more funds, more income from the small amount of money that you've actually deposited, right? So, for example, like if you have deposited 1,000 Rand, right, and you are with a broker where the leverage is 1:5, it means that you are controlling, 5,000 Rand essentially, right? So you control more than 5 times your initial deposit. So it gives you more buying power, and it means your profits will
Mm,
grow. But also, I mean, if, it goes against you, your losses will be capped, will be excessive. So, there are ways to mitigate it, and those are things we're going to go through. So then there is also the initial margin, which is the amount you need to open the actual position, right? So we will go into it in depth. And then there's the maintenance margin, which is the minimum balance required to keep a position open, right? So it means that if you go below this certain threshold, it means that position will be closed out so that it keeps the broker's funds safe, right? Because remember that they're just borrowing them for you so that you can actually use them in this position, right? And then there's what we call margin call. That's when you've actually reached that, the maintenance margin, and now you are in, a negative, and you would need to be adding more funds into your account so that you can be above the maintenance margin.
Yeah, so I think obviously the key things are initial margin, maintenance margin, and margin call. The word margin call is something that's important to understand. This is a point where you never want to reach this point. You always want to have enough funds in your account, and I think this is something that happens with people is, they don't understand these basic key terms and end up getting margin called. So it's basically, I like to explain it as it's debt. It's basically like debt that you use or leverage that you use, and it can be like a double-edged sword. It can either enhance your gains or it can enhance your losses. So it's a very there's a lot of responsibility involved when it comes to margin. So
True.
I'm not sure if you can just explain to us, how does it actually amplify your gains? If you mentioned quickly that, 1 to 5 leverage, what exactly happens when you open a leverage position? Or, you know, you mentioned also that it's like borrowing money from your broker. So, you explained quickly that it can enhance your gains. 1,000 Rand can be worth 5,000 Rand with a 5x leverage. Not sure if you want to elaborate on that as well.
All right. So on the previous slide, we were actually also mentioning that, if you had deposited 1,000, right, you would have controlling essentially of 5,000 Rand. So imagine now you have the 1,000 Rand, which is like the amount you have, and then you have a leverage account, right? With your leveraged account, it means you'll have 5,000. So say now a share moves up 10%, right? So with your 1,000, you'd basically then make 100 Rand. But when you looked at the leverage, when you actually then, that same 10% will give you 500, right?
Mm,
And initially, if you look at it, you have the same amount. Your minimum deposit was the same. It's just that leverage then amplified it for you.
no.
But vice versa is true when it actually goes down. So you could then lose that same amount, 500, and as well the other side you will lose 100. So it does amplify it, But obviously, when it comes to like these kind of leverage products, you need to always have ways to mitigate risk, because that is a biggest thing that we actually face, right? And then secondly is that most people don't know that there are different brokers. I'll start with Forex. When most of us got introduced to trading, it was through Forex, and most of the brokers that were coming at the time, they would use leverages of 1:800, so one is to, 1:600. At the time we didn't understand it. You just, put in $100, and then, in a couple of minutes, just after opening a trade, you're out. You didn't
Yeah.
even set a stop loss, nothing. The market just moved a few ticks against you, and then you were knocked out. So it means that there are always two types of, brokers that you have: those that have a variable leverage. So by variable leverage is that when you sign up, they actually give you a choice, right? If you want, 1:5, 1:10, 1:600, 1:800, to whatever amount they actually reach, right? Because I think 800 was the most I've seen,
That's
when
extreme.
I
Yeah, that's
recall.
extreme.
It was extreme, and it was mostly with Forex, right? And then you
Yeah.
have those brokers that have fixed leverage, right? So that creates that consistency, and it's a bit safe, so that clients can see what they're actually doing. Like we are offering with our stocks, it's 1:5, right?
Mm.
Meaning that, like we said earlier on in the example, that if you have a 1,000, it means that you will be able to control a position of 5,000 Rand with that initial 1,000 Rand.
Yeah, and I think like the 1 to 5, it kind of seems like moderate risk in my opinion. And you mentioned the 200 or the 600 or the 800 leverage. I think that's people wanting to trade in forex and wanting to capitalize from small moves in the market in a daily or in one day, for example, on a minute chart or whatever that might be. And I think that yeah, I always say that it just feels and seems extremely risky to play around with that amount of leverage. So I think generally it's safer, especially when starting out. Not to opt for higher leverage accounts, and kind of understanding the topic first, and kind of maybe just playing with demos before you just use 1 to 200 or 1 to 800 leverage. And I like that you mentioned the stop loss, and I think there's a few basic things when it comes to trading that everyone should know. Actually, whether you trading with 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever it might be. I'm not sure if you can just touch on the importance of a stop loss. And I think before we talk about stop loss, we obviously need to be able to understand the amount of money that we are willing to risk per trade. And I think there's a general rule of thumb. I know people normally work from 1 to 3%. But you should never obviously trade money that you're not willing to lose. And knowing exactly what you're willing to trade, or the amount that you're willing to open a trade with, is important. And then protecting that trade with a stop loss is very, very important. I'm not sure if you want to touch on that. Obviously, protecting yourself from this massive risk that you can face.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with leverage products, hence why I think a lot of terms that are being used, like have a strategy, always follow your strategy, is so that
Yeah,
it can actually keep you in a line. So
yeah,
why people, and I think a lot of professionals would say to you that, hey, use 1 to 3% per position, so that you are able to control your leverage and how exposed you are to this leverage. So a lot of people opt to actually then take in a small chunk of their funds into one position, just so that they can see how it goes. And some of them then will build on top of it. So if they start with 1% and they seeing that it's going their way, then they'll keep adding to that 1%, right? Because obviously they still have leverage that they can use to actually build up that position, right? So the importance of stop losses, so that if it does go against you, is that you don't have to worry about you hitting your margin call. Because if you do get to that point where it's margin call, then it essentially means that your account is about to be closed, and you've lost essentially your actual minimum deposit that you've
Yeah.
actually put in. So that stop loss is quite essential, important for clients to actually have.
Yeah, I think another way to put it, like if you have 1,000 rand invested, you have 5x leverage, you can possibly trade 5,000 rand. And if you open a position of let's just say 1%, and you don't have a stop loss, and the stock or the crypto or whatever it is that you're trading keeps going down, and the market turns against you, you can effectively lose all of your money. You can effectively get margin called and lose all of your money if you do not have that stop loss in place. So the idea of a stop loss is to minimize your losses. So if the market turns against you, let's say it's a 1% position and the trade amount is 100 rand or whatever it is, you can only lose the 100 rand and not 1,000 rand, for example. And that's very important. I think that's something that the risk mitigation on margin trading is probably the most important part of using leverage, is to understand the risk involved and how to protect yourself against that. Um,
Uh,
so obviously there's different risk and ratios that you quickly talked on. I see it shows you a moderate risk on the 1 to 5, and I agree with that. So I'm not sure if you can explain and work through these ones quickly and to
yeah.
explain what happens if the market goes up or down.
All right. Yeah. So this is a simple one, just so that people understand, right? So a leverage product, if it's one-to-one, it's basically saying that you'll be investing your own funds. It's
Mm.
essentially like you are investing in a share using only your funds, right? And then 1 is to 5 is basically now we'll be borrowing you that extra, 4,000 so that you have a leverage of 5,000 in total in control of you. So same thing goes if it's 1 is to 10, then you have, 10,000 that you have to control to actually invest in the markets, right? Though as they drop, you can imagine that a 10% drop with the 1 is to 10 is that it will equal to that 1,000 rand that you've deposited. So that's where you would have reached your margin call and then your position could be closed. So
Yeah.
it's essential to always have, in such a situation where you have like 1 is to 10, to have like a stop loss, like we spoke about earlier, below where it's like, not anything above 5%. And however, on that note, now that we are talking about risks and so forth, is that we are a broker that offers services, so we don't offer advice. So anything here is factual information so that clients can actually be informed with what they're actually getting themselves into.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're
Hmm.
here to educate and just shed a bit of light and obviously not give any specific advice.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 10% with a 100% loss. It's scary how quickly the market can swing up and down. Especially with like individual shares or crypto, maybe how quickly a 10% move can happen in the market and how quickly you can be wiped out. Obviously, the upside again is also there, but yeah, the risk again is very important. Obviously, when it comes to trading, there's certain things that you have to understand, and like the do's and don'ts. So I'm not sure if we can start with that. Some important things to consider, and call it, or let's call it a bit of a checklist or a mental checklist that you can follow to protect yourself and kind of just help yourself to ultimately succeed with the trading.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And I think, we'll start with the do's, right? Using a stop loss, right?
Very
So,
important.
like we just, it's number one rule. It's like getting
Yeah.
into a Porsche and
Yeah.
not putting on your safety belt. I don't think you'd want to do that when you're moving at like 260 kilometers per hour. So it's always important to use a stop loss so that it helps you mitigate your risks, right? Because you don't have a lot of options in this. You don't want to do it on a mental note. I've seen a lot of, other people that have actually tried saying, I don't use stop losses. I have it mentally. Well, once it reaches this level, then, I will close out my position, right? And in most cases,
Mm.
you find that then emotions get to them and they're like, you know what, it will come back. And they
Yeah.
let that position run and run. And it means that they've now let emotions control them. So the stop loss has a lot of things that it mitigates. It doesn't just mitigate your own portfolio, but also your emotions, right? Because
Mm.
once you know that not all your funds will be lost in this particular, like, position you are in, then you feel a bit more at ease. Because after all, in such cases, it's more of probability, right? So you want to actually give yourself a chance to also be able to come participate in the market again in case that you've got it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second thing is position sizing, which we also have dived into a lot, right? So never, never risk more than 1 to 3%. If you're going to go like 5%, just know that now you are risking a lot, when it comes to this. So once you have these two, which is your stop loss and position sizing or done for you, then you know that when it comes to your portfolio, you are actually then done, right? And then limit your exposure, right? So by limiting your exposure, say now you've opened a position for 3%, right? So it means that you need to also have a strategy or a plan to say that, okay, if I have opened a position for 3%, I can open another two 3% positions. So in total, you'll be actually running a position worth like 9%, right? So you want to be able to manage that so that in case you do get them wrong, you still have an opportunity to be in the market. Nothing is as worse as being in the market and then you get it wrong, only to get wiped out all your hard and worked money. So you want to actually always avoid that. And also everything ties up to emotional control, right? Once you've done the first two, right, which is your stop loss and position sizing, and you are into the trade already, remember that there's not much you can do now. The only thing you can do is every day try monitor your positions. If it is, you'll be using a stop loss, a trailing stop loss, where you keep moving up with the price of whatever instruments you've bought, then you can do that. But then emotions are really something people take lightly, and it's the cause of most people's failure, right? You find that they have a good strategy, but because they can't keep their emotions to ride the wave, to ride that,
Yeah.
yeah, because the moment someone sees like they've made, say, 1,200, and then the next day they see it at 900, people have fear of missing out. So
Mm.
they want to quickly just close out their positions and leave.
Yeah.
So those are things that it actually helps mitigate. And then don'ts, all right? Don't over leverage. So by over leveraging, we mean that we use all the power that you have, using all the margin that you have, and you essentially find yourself in a position where you have to make further deposits and so that you can save your account, right? And that also happens when people don't use stop losses. You could still be in one position where you've opened it with 3%, and it could still require you to like still fund it because a stock, if it goes like against you, it can go. You don't know how far it can go, but it can still
Yeah.
go against you. So you'd want to actually limit it. And then obviously emotional trading comes into play where you don't want to be revenge trading, opening positions of that nature, right? And ignoring margin calls. It's important to not ignore margin calls. It's like you're on a lifeline now, so you need to act on it and actually make further deposits.
Yeah, I think, it's these are basic things that you need to, work on. I
Yeah.
think the emotional part is so important. Obviously, we are emotional beings, so we make, sometimes we make emotional decisions, and trading specifically is a investment where you need to have a lot of, emotional intelligence, and this is something that takes time to acquire. It's like experience, but I think that starting with the do's and don'ts, this will help you, and focusing on these things is going to be very important at the end of the day. Um, yeah, so we've been talking about margin trading. I think something everyone wants to see is some type of demo. How does it work? We're talking about theory, but can we see how this works practically? Um, you know, people want to see. I think that's something that's very important.
Mm. No, definitely, definitely. So what I'm going to do is that there's going to be a pop-up again, right, where people please just leave your ID, right, your client ID in the pop-up that's coming. You can actually do a live demo, right, of how you can actually use the leverage with BROKSTOCK, all right? And also just to declare that we are not offering advice, just this is just purely factual information. All right.
Yeah, I think something else that I wanted to touch on that's interesting with the margin is, you can make trades when the market goes up, and you can make trades when the market goes down. That's something that I liked when I started, which is interesting. Not everyone knows it, but it allows you to let's call it bet against the market. I don't think if it's a smart idea necessarily, but you can. So, which is also pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And remember with, when you're using leverage is that you're not actually stuck to using only like going along, right? You can also go short, meaning if
Yeah.
you see that like the company is about to perform badly, or you know of some insights that the company will perform badly in their next earnings report, or they've
Yeah.
had a fail of some sort, then you can actually still do that, which is what I found as a benefit, because going both ways, it can be quite helpful, right? So now I'm in the app, right? I just want to go over it right quickly for you. So I'm going to quickly go to the bottom left where we're going to click on our portfolio, right? Oh, it logged out. All right, so let it log in. So I'm in again on the app, right? I'm going to click on my portfolio so that I can check my uh, margin if it's activated. You go to the top right and you click on your settings, and then you enable margin trading, right? By clicking there. And please read the attention of that appear there in the terms and conditions that are involved with actually trading leverage products, right? All the time. So then now we have activated our margin, right? So now I'm going to typically just open a position, right? I've been looking at silver recently, right? It's been moving higher. So I'm going to go into buy mode, right? And then remember, now we are using leverage products, right? So you'd want to actually set your stop loss and take profit. So we'll go to market order with SL and TP, right? So now it means that we've now opened a position of not a position. Now we've opened the windows where you can actually then set your stop loss, right? So now we're going to go into it, and then we're going to set our stop loss. But however, let me just to confirm that we have actually have it in margin. Oh, it's not activated. I didn't save it. So let's go back to it again. All right. So now we have this. This is your silver. All right. Okay. Now this is what I wanted to show people, right? Remember that we were talking that when you have leverage, like we are offering 1:5, right? So it means that the amount that you will use would be 20% of that amount. Right. So it means that if you have, instead of you buying like a whole silver at 916, you actually will be initially needing 183, which is 20% of that, right? Meaning the rest, then Brockstock will help you provide by providing you with the leverage, right? So now in my case, now that I have, 10,000, I'd want to risk 500. All right, meaning it's three lots. All right, so I come here and then I go buy my three lots. Now it's in my portfolio, right? So then I can go back and then go into my portfolio, and then here it is, right? If you want to actually set in your stop loss, you can come in here as well. Like we've always spoken, I want to put mine at minus 10%. It should actually cut me out. So once the silver moves below by 10%, it will actually then close my position. It has saved it. and then we go back again, and then we'll create a take profit as well, right? And then I'll leave it at plus 15%, and then I'm going to click save, and then everything is done, right? So this means basically that when you don't need to be here to monitor it all the time. Now you've already set your take profit and stop loss. So whenever this price will reach like zero at the stop loss, it means that it will actually hit your stop loss, and then it will take you out of this position. Right. Same thing when it goes reaches, plus 15%, it means that it will actually take you out. As you can see the price, the difference. So this is the price of the actual instrument. So it will actually take you out the stop loss. And so is like the percentage of like a take profit, which is 1,055. So that's where you'll actually then get taken out to take your profit off the table, right? So that's how you actually open a leverage position with us at BROKSTOCK. And then you can come as always to monitor it under here by your portfolio. You see. So that's how you actually do it on the BROKSTOCK app. So now I'm gonna stop here and come back here. So
Yeah, I think it's nice to see it in person. I think it's really quite straightforward. You kind of removed all of the emotional stress if you use your stop loss and your take profit. And obviously when you get to a point where you want to focus on really trading, you can use stuff like lot calculators or stop loss calculators to determine the exact amount that you are willing to lose or win, and be very specific with your lot sizes, and knowing exactly the size of trade that you are willing to open. Because I think what's also important is with the dues, like we covered previously, it's you kind of have to focus on all of them. You can't just decide your amount that you're willing to trade, but not know the risk of the specific stop loss for that instrument. And obviously, this is just to illustrate how it works and how easy it is to work with the app. But there's a few things that you need to understand as well. And I think again, it just comes down to understanding the risk involved. But yeah, thank you for showing us that, Maboko. I think it's quite interesting, and I hope that people can actually see that it is quite possible and easy to get started with the app.
yeah, yeah, definitely. As like we keep improving, so we'll make it more user friendly as people, come, and we are open to people coming through to us via email, via call through to support. If they have any queries or if they have any ideas of how we can actually make the app better for them. I mean, they are more than welcome to come through. So the aim here is to make it simpler for people to actually use it, right? So
Yeah.
that they can actually, make better investment decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you guys are open for improvement. It's I always talk about constant and never-ending improvement, and if an app or company is willing to do that, you can only go up. So yeah, I really like using the app. It's something that it's like instead of going into Instagram daily, I use BROKSTOCK. So yeah, it's definitely something that can benefit a lot of people. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I see a few of the advantages when it comes to BROKSTOCK. I recently saw the multiple accounts that's in beta, which is quite interesting. I'm not sure if you want to touch on those things as well.
Yeah, so now with the multiple accounts, remember, like you said, it's in beta. So basically, here we are trying to help clients now segregated, right? Remember
Mm.
that there's leverage and, there's like the Brock Stock Plus if you're interested in, just keeping your money for an interest bearing,
Yeah.
as well. So if you want to use leverage for one account and the other one, you want to use it for investments. So we are trying to create one ecosystem where you don't need to leave. You can have everything under one account with multiple accounts in it so that when you actually log into your BROKSTOCK app, you know that you can do multiple things. And as you can imagine, it means that these accounts will have different risks. So you
Yeah,
don't, if you feel like you have 100,000 and you'd like to risk only like 5% towards, leverage products, then, I mean, then you can just put it into one account, right?
that's
So
awesome.
that's one aspect of it. And then we have the educational resources, right? So we are always updating it. We are always adding new resources. So clients, please should keep a lookout on that. We have them in the app. And they should always like read them because we try and make them as simple as possible so that clients understand what they're getting themselves into, right? And then we also have limit orders, right? Limit orders is where now a client, instead of wanting to buy at market price, they can actually then buy at a certain price that they need. So, for example, we bought in at the actual price. So, but if we wanted to buy at 900, that's when we would use a limit order, so that when the price of silver then reaches 900, and then it triggers a buy and then a client can enter into it. And also, we're talking about all these leverages and leverage products and using risk and stop losses, though I think above everything else is always, guys, use a licensed broker. You know, most of even me, I have a personal experience where I've used a broker which was not licensed by the FSCA, and hey, money lost. So in order to actually safeguard your money, always use an FSCA licensed broker, right? Like us, BROKSTOCK, and our license number is 51404. It helps because it keeps all financial service providers in check. So it makes sure that they are adhering to strict rules and also keeping client funds segregated from the actual business running funds, right? So it means your funds will always be protected at all times.
Yeah, I think that's very important, licensed brokers. And I just want to add something on the limit orders. That's ideal, if you wanted to start trading a bit more seriously, where you can enter into a specific price and have a specific stop loss under, a support level on the chart. It makes it much easier to actually successfully enter a very, specific trade with a specific stop loss that helps you to obviously gain on the upside as far as possible. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and like, and I think above all, like, I think then it alleviates also the stress of always like
Yeah.
looking at the screens because, also another myth is people thinking that if you spend a lot of time on the screen looking at the share price move, it will make things any better. So I think
Yeah.
once you've said these things, it makes it a bit easier to actually move forward with it then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the
Mhm.
staring at the screen is not going to change the outcome. Yeah, obviously we mentioned
Yeah,
previously
definitely.
the giveaway where you can join and get the free share of CFD, JSE CFD. So yeah, last chance if anyone wanted to enter the app IDs, maybe you just had to get it quickly. Now's your time to enter it here as well, and again you get a free JSE CFD. So that's I like free stuff, so hopefully you guys do too.
Yeah,
I think
definitely, definitely.
there's another, obviously we see Black Friday specials running all over South Africa, people going crazy. When I logged into the app this morning, I saw this as well, and I thought that's pretty cool. You know how quickly people spend. Let's say, for example, the gift tiers. The first one is 2,000 to 5,000 rand. How quickly people spend 2,000 rand on Black Friday specials, where you can instead, kind of put it toward your financial future and literally just invest 2,000 rand and get a free, Sibanye Stillwater share. And obviously, you can see on the screen the other ones that you can get as well. Instead of buying that new fridge or dishwasher or whatever, that's how I see it, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Sibanye still waters, mines currently in South Africa, like our mining industry has been also doing pretty well. So yeah, it's like really a free stock, basically. It's a Black Friday. Like I
Yeah.
think, there's not much to say. So please, people, if you want to participate in it, make a deposit between 26, right, until the 30th of November, right? And keep the amount there up until the 26th of December, right? And the gift then will be credited on the last day of this year, which is the 31st. And it will actually be a great way to enter into a new year. So, guys, please take advantage of it. It's the Black Friday, as you go out, before you go out and buy, like you said, your fridge and your PS5, take care of your future first, pay yourself before then spending on things of today. Save for the
Yeah, I
future
like
as well.
that. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, thanks so much, Maboko. I'm not sure if there's something else that you wanted to touch on. I think it's a good way to get started in understanding the topic. Obviously, your research and your education should definitely not stop here.
Mhm.
There's a lot of information out there, so I would obviously advise everyone to continuously educate yourself on the topic, and hopefully you can improve from there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like we spoke earlier on, that in the app will keep improving, and there'll always be like improvements where people can then actually learn more about it. And, there'll be more analytics that can just like factually open them to new avenues they were not aware of. And please, guys, just you saw a pop-up now about the polls. Please just add your ID again, right? This is your last time to actually add the ID to actually participate in this promo that we are running here for this webinar. And yeah, so in closing, basically, I would say that leverage products, treat them with care. They're highly um, leveraged products that can actually exacerbate your wins and also your losses. So always treat risk with the utmost respect so that you can actually survive to see another day in it.
Yeah. Good ending, good advice. Thank you, Maboko. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your information here tonight. I really appreciate it. It was a good one.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
actually
thank
having
you
us.
everyone for joining. We hope that this was beneficial, and even if you just learned one thing, that forms part of education, and that makes it worth it for us. So yeah, thank you so much for attending.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. And also then I'll see you again. Hopefully we'll have more of them, Louis. Thank you so
Yeah,
much guys
looking
for
forward to it.
attending. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thanks a lot, man.
are there any questions from the guys?
Let's
You
see if
know?
there's sure if there's well, there's a lot of questions. Not sure which
Ooh.
ones we should. Yeah,
Just
it's
take
quite a lot.
a good two so that we can just, go through them. If it's in case things we didn't cover that we can actually look into.
Mm, I saw someone asking in the beginning,
Mm,
what is the downside, or, how can you actually lose your money, and what's the main risk involved? Obviously, we covered that. You can effectively
mhm.
lose all your money, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's something specific that you see. There's quite a lot of
Mhm.
chats going on here, which is great.
Yeah.
Let me just scroll a bit. No, I think people appreciate the stop loss part. That's very important. Um,
Yeah. So if there are no questions, I think from there, obviously they can always reach out to us via like email, right? We have WhatsApps, we have a WhatsApp line, we also have like a phone line, so they can always reach out to us where they need it. And yes, this recorded is recorded and it will be made available to you guys, all right?
No, I think that's also a good place to ask a bit of questions when we eventually post it. Then we
Yeah.
can kind of reply from there as well.
Yeah. All
Yeah. All
right.
right. Cool,
Thank
man.
you
It
so
was
much.
nice. We'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. It's late now, so hopefully everyone can have a good night further.
All right, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Hey, bye bye.